we're in UK Goosebumps, and today we're going to another video with it, which is the third book in the original series, which is Stay Out the Basement. First of all, we're going to take a look at this cover. Weird cover, not one of my favourites at all. What is that face? Anyway, so yeah, well, let's just get straight into the review. So this starts with our main characters, Margaret and Casey, their brother and sister, and they notice that their dad has been acting really strangely lately. He's a botanist, I think it's called, something like that. He works on plants, basically. So he's been acting really strangely. He stays like down the basement nearly all day. Not interact with them as much as he normally is. So they're playing in the garden one day. And they go down to see his work in their basement. And he actually shouts at them, "Stay out the basement," which, as you can tell, you're probably going to hear this a lot throughout this review because it is the name of the book. So he shouts to them, "Stay out the basement," and their mum is actually going away on a trip to somewhere to meet. I think it's to see their aunt because she's in hospital or something. So he's taking her to the airport. So they see this as a perfect opportunity to go down to the basement again. So they go down into the basement, but Casey realises he left his shirt down there because he took it off because it was too hot. So he goes back down to see if he can get it, and then their dad actually comes in and gives them a massive telling off for going in the basement again, and ends up actually putting a lock on the basement door. So after this incident, he starts wearing a hat quite a lot, like a baseball cap. They're not really sure why, but they don't question it. And they're playing in a garden a few days later again with the Frisbee, and the Frisbee actually knocks their dad, also called Mr. Brewer, or Dr. Brewer, I think it is. They knock his baseball cap off, and underneath this baseball cap is a head, and all these leaves are growing from his head. And this part made me especially queasy because I can just imagine the roots of the plants going into his head, and I just kind of want to pull them out. But yeah, that is pretty gross. Anyway, knocks his hat off, and he says, "Oh yeah, it's just due to my experiments. It's a side effect. It won't last very long." Anyway, so he explains that it won't last too long, and later that night, he is in the bathroom, and Margaret sees him in the bathroom, and he's bleeding from his hand, but his blood is like green goo, and it's really thick and minging. If you watch the episode, it actually does a really cool representation. It kind of looks like monster blood. It's just, if you watch the episode, it's like green gunk. It's weird. Anyway, so she thinks nothing of this, and she's weirded out by it, but she goes down to tell her brother Casey about what's happened downstairs, but he doesn't believe her, and they just go downstairs and listen to the noises in the basement. Anyway, the next morning, she goes downstairs and actually sees her dad eating plant food, which is disgusting. And Mr. Martinez, her dad's boss, is actually there as well, after he obviously eats the plant food, because he's not going to do while he's there. And Mr. Martinez is there to look on his work and everything, and their dad gives them this weird, sloppy green mixture, and he says it's going to be really good for them, and they're going to be glad that they have it. So while he's not looking, while he's showing Mr. Martinez around, they chuck out this sloppy green mixture. So their dad goes to help a neighbour fix the bathroom sink. So the dad thinks they've eaten this mixture at this point, so he goes out. So they decide to go down into the basement to have a look around because they want to find their kites to go fly. So they go into the basement, and they see Mr. Martinez's suit down there. And their dad finds them again. How can you not be sneaky at this point? Come on, I mean. Anyway, his dad finds them again and says, "Stay out the basement." And he also explains that Mr. Martinez was hot, so he took off his suit and must have accidentally left it there. Anyway, their dad goes to collect their mum from the airport later on, and the kids, yet again, think this is the perfect time to go down to the basement to see what's happening, because they know something's up now. Their dad's got leaves growing out of his head, he's got blood, weird, gunky, goo blood stuff coming out of his hand. A dude's suit's down there who came into the house, and they didn't actually see him leave, so they're wondering what's happened. So they go down to the basement while their dad is out, and they actually find the rest of Mr. Martinez's clothes. So they look around, and they open, like, closets and everything, and suddenly someone stumbles out of a closet, and it looks exactly like their dad. So it's basically a second version of their dad. He tells them that the other plant, not the other plant, just gave it away. The other person who was saying their dad is actually a clone plant that he's made, and he's taken over him. So he explains this and says, okay, wait here. I'm gonna wait here with an axe for him to come home. And he says a specific thing. He says princess to Margaret, and that's the thing only her dad would say. So she's pretty confident this is her dad. Anyway, the clone comes home and finds the real dad out of the closet where he put him, and they start arguing. So Margaret has an idea. She gets a knife, cuts their dad, and he bleeds real blood. And this is the dad that came out the closet that they found in the basement. And then she cuts the plant clone, and he bleeds green gunk. And you can tell this is one of the earlier Goosebumps books. 1, they involve blood. 2, they involve knives and cutting people. And 3, then the real dad gets an axe and just cuts the other dude in half, straight down the middle. So you can tell this is an earlier book, because if this was in a modern one, I don't know, they would not allow that. There's types of people are so sensitive about, like, it's so funny though. He just chops him in half. And like there's green goo everywhere. He's got tendrils inside of him. So he's dead at this point. And the family have a really happy reunion, and they're all happy. Their dad burns all the plants from the basement so nothing bad can happen, and they also find Mr. Martinez in the end, who was in a closet somewhere. Who was also going to be used to experimented on. Who knows? So Margaret's playing in the garden again one day. She sure likes this garden. She's been out there a lot. And there's these plants on the floor. And one of them actually goes to her, oh, Margaret, please wait. I'm your real dad. Boom. The end. Who knows? Well, let me tell you about this book. I really enjoyed it. I would definitely read it again, just because... like, it's scary at some parts, as in, because, like, the goriness. Like, it's not really scary. It's, like, a bit edgy, because you don't know what's going to happen. And then it's just so funny at the same time, the concept of someone getting overtaken by plants, because they knew something was up, so they always knew. And the way he just splits him in half with the axe, I just find it so funny. So, yeah, I would give this book, like, a... Also, on my Say She's and Die review, I meant to put the book as 2.4, not 3.4, because that wouldn't really make sense if I said mid. Anyway, I'd rate this book a 3.4, unlike Say She's and Die. So yeah, 3.4 is a solid book, really enjoyed it. Maybe a little bit higher. I'll probably change my things depending on how much I read them and stuff. But yeah, 3.4, 3.5, really good book. So yeah. My theory on what happened next is probably that the plant is just trying to say that to convince Margaret to help him with, like, work or something, the plant, as in, like, to bring him back to life or something, like a plant person. Because, number 1, like, that's their real dad, he bled real blood. 2, why would he burn all the plants if it was his own kind, you know? 3, that's a plant, and, like, they couldn't have turned the dad into the plant in, like, it just doesn't add up. So I don't think the plant was actually the dad. I think it was just like a plant that was trying to tell him something. Who knows? That's what I think. Anyway, yeah. So number 3 in the original series, Stay Out the Basement, 3.4 rating. Tell me what you think. Thank you very much for watching.